Okay, we're live, and this is another interview in my series of interviews called the Scholar Gypsies. So today's guest,
Let's go.
I'm delighted to.
Yeah, I'm like an addict. Do I gotta have it? I ain't even playing.
Paddy about maybe less than a week ago. He put up a video on that I saw on Facebook, and it was like a 7-minute stream of consciousness rant on the state of the country, and it definitely resonated with everybody I was following because I think it's been shared hundreds of times. And it's basically a call for more of the ordinary people of Ireland to be given platforms and opportunities to express themselves, get involved with local politics and local activism. And so I thought I'd bring Paddy on today to have a chat. So, Paddy, I just want to ask you the first question. Is what led up to the point of you making that video?
What led up to just that video that day was plain and simple what I was looking at happening around me and on the news again, that's kind of what led it up to. It led up to a point where I just thought, what the hell is going on here, and what's going to be done about it. And I just kind of said what I felt at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is what has been happening lately, which is on everybody's mind, naturally enough, is the Ukrainian influx from running from war, from strife, and the division, I think is the right word for it, is that is causing, the upset that it's causing. And then, of course, the reaction for it is that a lot of people are, well, criticizing it in a way, but a lot of people are kind of criticizing the Ukrainians themselves, which isn't really the problem either. It's government policy that has caused this, and that's why the rant was, that what has caused this in the first place. And I do believe that what has caused this is our own passivity in politics. We can say it's the government's fault that everything is in a mess. We can say that, but then we're equally to blame in that we allowed it to happen, that we allowed the government to become a totalitarian regime that literally decides absolutely every aspect of your life. I mean, if we're going to take in a lot of immigration, and don't get me wrong, we should do, okay? But as important a question as that, don't you think that the people should be asked? We're saying, some people are saying we should cap it. Yeah, maybe, okay. But is this a government alone that makes that decision? A decision that size to do something like this? I think the people should be involved. You should ask the people what they want. And it's not only on this issue, it's on everything, every single issue. And that's why with the last year, a little over a year actually, we've been working on that, because this country is going down the Swanee, no matter what way you look at it. I mean, it's going from bad to worse. Every day there's something else gone wrong. There's nothing working as it should at all. And we can ask ourselves, why is that happening? Well, we all know why that is happening. The blame lies squarely on government. They're the ones that are running the country, running it into the ground, but they're the ones running it. We don't actually have a say in running it. And that, I think, is one of the problems and one of the things we must work on, that we must start working on to change. And the only way we can do that is people getting involved in their politics, especially at local level. All politics are local. I mean, we have, at the moment, we've no control of either national or local government. What I'm saying is that the people themselves, no platform to speak on. We're on social media now, and some of the things that the things that I'd say, the opinions that I have, I can't utter them on radio. Some radio stations just won't leave me on because they know what I might say. So we don't have a platform. The people of Ireland do not have a platform. Politicians in Ireland have a platform. Elitists have a platform. Bankers have a platform. Multinational corporations, they have a platform. They're all over TV, all over radio all the time. Where's our platform? For example, it's supposed to be my local town hall here. It's supposed to be my public democratic forum where I can go to have my voice heard. At the moment, it's an art centre where they hold. It's an art gallery. Been turned into an art gallery. That's a town hall that the people of the community around me here have built with taxpayers' money paid for and are still paying for. Yet we can't access it. We can't hold our public democratic forums there. We can't hold our meetings. We have to hold them in a park, in a public place. We can't hold a public meeting in a public town hall that we own. That's just one example of the lack of platform for the electorate, for the ordinary Joe Soap, each individual. When I go back, right, we'll risk of harping on now, but I'm going to say it like, you know, I wouldn't be allowed on the radio to say things like this. You know, when you say, just take a thing like the last 2 years with the that we've had with COVID-19. And it comes like what freedoms we have, what rights we have. Well, I'll just ask you, like, how much freedom do we actually have when it's the state that dictates what it puts into your body? I mean, you know, you don't decide. It's the state decides it.
Okay.
When it comes into yeah, okay.
No, just I don't want to stop. I just one thing. Can you steady your camera just a little bit because it's going up and down? If you can, so we can keep you in steady. Yeah. So yeah, that's perfect. Now the first thing you brought up a few.
I'm holding my hand, you see.
All right. So the first thing I want to ask you, you brought up a couple of things there, and one of the things that resonated, because I know you're an artist and tattooist yourself, and you mentioned the art centre, and I agree with you as to the public forums for local people to express themselves. But you said something else there that was this. You said we are involved in this for a year. Are you part of a group or a local group of activists that are kind of doing stuff on the ground in y'all, or what's the background there?
Yes, y'all, you see, is right on the border into Waterford. It's East Cork. And the group that we have here, we have quite a few people, active local activists, started small, started with just a couple of us meeting. Or literally in shebeens at the time because we were not supposed to be outside our 5K. And already then we were trying to figure out what are we going to do about this totalitarian regime that's stripping away our rights to freedom of movement, our right to bodily integrity, our right to meet in public. And that started about a year ago. And it has grown since. So now we have activists that are kind of, I could say, East Cork, West Waterford. And the group became called Government Out Next Election. And that is GONE for short. And we worked on a manifesto, which we have, and we call it Rubicon Manifesto. And it's not Rubicon because it has anything to do with Julius Caesar. It is short for Rule by Convention, which is in itself a political ideology. It's a form of direct democracy. And that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to spread the word, trying to get it out, because when people come across it and read it, kind of get their head around it, they appear to like it. It's an alternative to the party political system, plain and simple.
Okay, so could you go into it a little bit?
Well, I could in short, I suppose. The idea is that the first step in it is that people themselves need to literally get control of their local government. Because according to our constitution, our local government is supposed to be our local democratic forum. In other words, it's supposed to represent the community. Now, the first part of that, it absolutely does not. It just does not. As I say, I was just pointing out, where, for example, do we meet? How many times do councillors organise a meeting for the electorate to come and make decisions on local policy, for example? It doesn't happen. Councillors, along as any other national politicians, I mean, they're not doing their job, and they are self-serving in my mind. Now, Mark, this is my opinion. As far as I'm concerned, there is no politician there at all working for the people. A politician is supposed to be a representative, right? So a representative, how can somebody represent you if they have literally no contact with you? They're on a different level to you. They don't engage with you. They don't come and ask you what you want. How can they represent you? They don't represent you. They represent themselves, or they represent parties. And that is why we need an alternative to this. We need all state policy decisions, national and local level, need to come right down for decision. And decision made on these policies at local or national level, made by the electorate themselves. And that will be done then by meeting in public, in your town hall, for example, and taking a vote on these on these policies. In other words, what I want is representatives that are politicians that are representatives that actually don't have the power of decision. They're only messengers. Any policy that comes up that has to be discussed, has to be decided upon, it should be their job to make sure that policy gets right down to grass level and is decided upon there, and then they can take that answer back to Dáil Éireann. So that's what it's about.
And do you see, there's a lot there. So you'd say that the first port of call would be to drastically take back control of local politics. So your local county councils. And would you be proposing then, and you're probably right on this, in the sense that once we elect county councillors, we never see them again unless we go ringing looking for them for for planning permission, or for some problem that we might have. We go chasing them down, but they don't seem visual in our day-to-day communities in terms of what you're talking about. So I think you might be onto something there.
Yeah. Like if I just take my own area here, East Cork, as an example, everything everything in this country is paid for by taxpayers for a start. Absolutely everything. Yeah, you pay for it, but it's looked after, or you could say, are controlled by these so-called representatives, and we have very little insight into what is actually done with the money, how it's spent, where it's spent. We absolutely have no decision on where it's spent. We don't, Nobody comes and asks me, like, where's my tax money being spent? It's 7 councillors decide that. But even at that, they don't really decide either. They're elected. They do have the power of debate, but it's actually a county manager that's appointed by this government that actually makes the decisions. That's one person that's not even elected that makes the decisions, that decides what happens with my money, taxpayer, that I pay for everything. So I mean, just locally, we've all kinds of silly decisions made over the years, money spent on very wasteful things. I mean, hundreds of thousands be sent on flower beds, for example, when people need homes or need housing around the area. Now, what my answer is, these decisions were made by either councillors or on the advice of a county manager. But what I say is, if people were making these decisions, then they wouldn't be wasting the money on roses, as far as I'm concerned. They'd be putting it where it's needed, you know, and we can do without the fancy roses around town. It's just an example of it. But what I'm saying is that all the decisions that are taken at local level in my area in East Cork are not taken by the people of East Cork or the people of Youghal with the area around it. They're taken by a small handful of people that once they're elected, totally disengage with people and do as they please. So what I want to do is I want to get ordinary people elected. Yeah, because these people come from a certain class as well, you know. They're politicians. You know, politicians even by tradition, you know. But what we need is that we need people that are just the same as me, that come from the same place as me. You know, that are my equals, that are my representatives as well, and that we have access to them constantly. And they do not make the decisions on my behalf. I make the decisions along with all the other members of the electors in East Cork, in the Youghal area, and give that answer to my representative to bring farther up the ladder. What I'm proposing that we do is we are doing it. We're in the process of it actually with our GON group. That's what we do every second week. We hold public democratic forum that are open to anybody, any member of the electors to come there to discuss any particular issue they want. But mainly what we're working on at the moment is what we're going to do to actually remove this farce of a government and put one in place that works. So what we're actually doing, and we have done with the last couple of weeks, is we meet every week, and we're collecting nominations for local people that are willing to step up to the plate and go forward for election. And we'll ask them to sign a contract. Actually, we have a contract prepared, so they will be signing. They'll be signing a contract with their electorate at an open democratic forum in front of the people that they will be representing, and they will sign the contract in front of them, and it will be recorded and it will be witnessed. We ask for witnesses from the crowd to sign that. So what we want going forward are ordinary people that will agree to this contract, not to make decisions on behalf of the people, but to make sure that any decision that has to be made, any policy that needs to be discussed, is taken right down to grassroots level, discussed and decided upon there. That's the type of representatives we want. We're doing that every second week. And if we keep going the way we're going to have quite a few names, I'd say, towards the election, and we'll just have to whittle it down to 7. What I would like to see happen is that all 7 seats are replaced immediately with ordinary people, all at once, all in one fell swoop. Now, if that's not possible, I'd say I'd settle for 4 being replaced out of the 7. That would be a majority.
You're ambitious anyway.
It's not just me that has dreamed all this up. Actually, now this is growing. It's not just me, you know.
Oh no! I mean, it's an ambitious goal. Not, and I take it you're going to run an election yourself.
I haven't been nominated, and I won't run without being nominated. Even though you can actually nominate yourself in this country, you can nominate and vote for yourself in Ireland. But I have already ran 4 times unsuccessfully. Best I ever did was got to third count. But I'm getting on. I don't know if I'm able for it again, you know. I think it's time that younger people did this instead of leaving it up to the old lads all the time.
And do you see is there an appetite amongst the youth for what you're talking about and bringing out every couple of weeks when you're meeting?
Yes, there is. There's quite a lot of young people. It goes right across the board. It seems that, as I say, I can't show it to you now, but we have this manifesto that we have written up. You'll find it online if you even search for government out next election, the group, and that you'll find it easily enough. And there is a manifesto there, and if people read that, okay. It's the first 4 pages of it that really explain everything, And once people do that, once they look at it and just get their head around the content a little bit on the plan, you could call it, on how we can achieve a better society and where we have more control of our government, it doesn't matter what age they are, they like it, you know.
Okay.
So it seems just like a code with them.
Yeah. And the contract itself, then, what specifically is that they're making a promise to not make any decisions without first talking to the local the local people on the ground? Is that the gist of it?
Yeah, but actually, it's a bit simpler than that. They don't, you know, it doesn't have to. What we want, they agree on the contract to that. That they're first and foremost, their most important part of the job of being a representative, a councillor at all, is to provide the public democratic forum. That is to provide the venue and provide this. That's all they have to do. Nothing more. Yeah.
Okay.
So any policy issues that, I mean, if the people want to take up a policy, they take it up at this forum that is provided by, you know, that. So that's what we have for that. There is one little clause in it, okay, is that it's broken up into constituency level and then local electoral area and then small local division. So at any point, at any level in that the people of those levels at those, like say, you know, the local electoral, we just take the middle ground, the local electoral area, the electorate at that level, if they want, can remove the representative by plebiscite.
Okay,
so they agree to that.
Okay. So if they feel during the term of the council term, which is what, 5 years, that they're not representing them, there's a facility to remove them.
Yes, by plebiscite, and they will have the ability to do so, or the opportunity to do so, because all decisions have to be made in public, open, democratic forum.
Okay.
That have to be held regularly.
Okay. So Paddy, tell me, it's probably, we jumped in at the end, and I meant to really, I should have probably started at the beginning, because you're obviously an activist type of person all your life. If you've ran 3 or 4 times for public office, where did you first get your interest in kind of being an advocate or an activist? Where did it start? Where did this drive come from?
I don't know. Have you tried for a funny story? I was 16 years old when I started work at sea, and I'd worked deep sea straight away. I was out for a little over a year on the first trip, and then I came back and they put me on the ferries between Dublin and Liverpool for a while. That I was still fairly young, I was about 17, and I remember distinctly that Willie Stacey was his name, Willier Stacey. He was the president of the Seamen's Union of Ireland at the time, which was a very strong body at the time. They did really look after us, you know, as members. Now, you didn't get a job on a ship unless you were a member of the union, because it was in actual fact the union that hired and fired people, not the companies. They had no say in it. These were iron hard unions, the old style at the time. But I remember on one of the ships, then what they'd do is they'd bring down the ballot boxes into the rec room on the ship, the recreation rooms and that, and then as you're working there during the day, you could nip around and put your vote in. So I went around to put my vote into the ballot box in the recreation room on the ship that I was on, and I noticed there was only one name on the ballot box. That was Willie Stacey. So I thought, yeah, okay, you know, I'll go along even then. So I went into this rec room. When I'm not joking, when I got in there, you know, there's ballot box in the middle, then there's this fella standing beside it, and I'm not joking, like he's the size of a fucking brick shit house, this fella, you know. And he was like, I thought it was out crossing, and I was thinking, I've a little ballot paper in my hand, you know, and I go over to him and I better ask him about this. What if I want to, you know, vote for somebody else here, you know, what do I do? So as I got closer, I remember looking, I distinctly to this day I remember looking up, and I could see like there's a whole bite gone out of his ear, somebody bitten it off, you know, right up. So he was the one looking after the ballot box and the vote, you see. So I said, right, excuse me, sir, you know, what if I want to vote for somebody else here than Willie Stacey? Well, how do I do that? Like, do I just write the name there? And then I was told, hey, young fella, write Willie Stacey, mark Willie Stacey on that, and put the fucking thing in the box there, right? Okay, right. So I think that's what started me off, really. Then I got involved in trade union and that, because I could see, right, there's something a little bit wrong about this system. It's not quite democratic. And that's where it started. I'm nearly sure that's where it started,
And
because
how did you find trade unions and that movement when you got into it?
Yeah. I was involved with the trade union in Ireland. At the very start, only kind of first 8 years I spent at sea was with the Irish unions, and it was, let's face it, very corrupt. The union itself was very corrupt as well. But then everything in Ireland through the 70s, from 72 to 1980, were rotten to the core, and still a lot of it there yet. But then I moved in those days when you could do, you could move around on ships. They were an international platform, you could say. And I worked on Swedish ships, by chance, and I spent 20 years in Scandinavia then working on ships, and a completely different system, a lot more democratic and fair. And that's kind of where I learned more politics, more ideology. Then that's where I read up on it and things like that. And at the time, I lived in a country then for 20 years, Sweden, that was a left-leaning government, so social democrat, and was one of the best countries in the world to live in, and one of the most democratic. And you had access to your local politics to become active in it. There was no hinder at all in you becoming active in your local politics, and you had access to it. So I think that's where I learned all that. Now that changed in 1996 when they joined the EU, and it's gone right straight downhill since then in Sweden. It's not working well at all now.
Well, it's do you get the sense that even what you said there about bringing it back to the local forums, that even at local level, most decisions or most policy measures are coming from Europe, not even coming from Dublin. They're coming from outside of the country.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the things that have happened even recently, thereby, as you said, the decision to take in unlimited amounts of immigration into the country, that's an EU decision. We made an agreement with the European Union to do that, so that's why we have difficulty with, or our government has difficulty trying to deal with it, because they can't get out of that agreement. That's an agreement they made with it. We have agreements made for better or for, I was going to say for better or for worse, but most of the agreements we have with the EU, I think I'm Eurosceptic. I think we should be out of it at this stage. Saying that, when I was a lot younger, before we went into the EU, I was all for the EU, because I was promised we would have freedom of movement of, let's get this right if I can remember, freedom of movement of people, goods, capital, and service.
Yeah,
I was all for it.
And so was I. I was the same.
Freedom of movement of people, goods. So people, so can I move around all of Europe unhindered? I'm lucky if I can get 5k. Sometimes I'm not allowed to buy 5k outside my house. So much for the freedom of movement. Freedom of movement of capital. It says itself, we're limited in the amount of capital you can carry around with you. Freedom of movement of goods. Then why do I have to pay VRT on cars? Why can't I buy a car in Germany where they're cheaper? Services, freedom of services. I know for a fact that insurances are damn sight cheaper in Sweden. So why can't I have a Swedish insurance here? None of this ever happened. It's the opposite. We're living in a totalitarian regime instead, where every move we make is totally controlled. If not by our own government, then by their government in turn, the European Union. So we really have to do something about it before it's too late. I mean, you just look at the developments in just take the last 20 years. Yeah, that alone. what way are we going? Is this progress? Is it getting better? Are things getting better? Is life getting better for everybody? Do we have better schools? Do we have better hospitals? Do we have better services? Do we have better everything? Everything is going to shit, if you don't mind me, excuse me French. That's what's happening. Now, extrapolate a little bit. Take it another 10 or 20 years forward again. What the hell is it going to look like here? I don't want that for my children. Somebody has to do something about it. Everybody is up in their arms. You know, they're all saying this, we're going to stop this. We're going to get out in the streets and we're going to lock down the country. Right? How many times do you hear that expression? We get out in the streets and we lock it down. We'll rings around their dolly and we'll shut the place down. Yeah. And what will that do? What difference will that make? They're probably not even in there. And besides, they don't give a shit anyway, because you've no power. You've no say in anything anyway. They'll just send the Gestapo on you. That's all they'll do. They'll just lock you up. They have all the power. They control everything. They control all the weapons, all the money, everything else. So we're wasting our time out demonstrating. What we need to do is get active, actually physically doing things, physically meeting other people in our local areas and deciding and making plans and actually doing things that are going to make a change. You see? So that's why I think that people see this, that what we are saying with the government out next election and the plan with our manifesto on how to do it is very simple. It's legal. It's to do it the legal way. Use the vote. It's our most powerful weapon, is our vote. Yet 50% of us, half, every second one, doesn't even use it. So, I mean, if we got our act together, got the information out to people, explain to them how you can do it, and your vote can actually change the whole political scene, can change the whole workings of it, if you just use it. So that's all. That's what it's about. It's just trying to incite people to just become active. Just look at what he's doing. Have a look at the plan. If you don't like it, fine, carry on. Just carry on as you normally do. Don't vote, whatever. But if you do like it and do see it, yeah, let's do something about it then. That's all we're saying. You know.
And tell me, why do you think people have been so, almost walking around in a trance for especially the last few years, that they're not out in this? I know you're saying it's no advantage to go on the streets, but I don't get the sense that people are very, that there's a huge upswell of anger out there, except, I meet people in our kind of groups that, whatever freedom groups you're kind of attached to or whatever, but I don't get a sense out in, we'll say I live up in Tuam now, I don't get a sense that the whole of Tuam's ready to, rise up and, upset the apple cart.
Yeah.
Or do you get that sense?
Yes, there is a bit of that. I know that. Well, my answer to that is yes. My answer to that is very simple. People are frustrated and feel disenfranchised, have no power, impotent when it comes to politics, can't make changes. How many times do you hear the expression, it doesn't matter what I do, it'll make no change, we've no say? How many times do we hear this, when people, I don't think, they don't realize the power they have. But I can understand why they're made that way. Why they are that way is because, let's face it, in my opinion, we have a totalitarian regime, and you are controlled. You are not allowed to go against their dictate or their narrative. You'll be made to pay for it if you do so, which is what we do as well. We come out and we say things as they are. And you ask questions. People ask questions of everything of the government. If you ask questions, you're going to be made to suffer. Do you remember we were all coerced into taking a vaccine? We weren't given the information. The media didn't do its job, and I'm talking about mainstream media now. They didn't do their job in informing people. If you came out at all on any mainstream media anywhere with a differing opinion to the narrative of government, you were shut off. You were classed as we were called anti-vaxxers, irresponsible, endangering the lives of everybody else because I refused to take an experimental vaccine, which, by the way, the numbers are coming out now and showing what it is, I mean, this was a scam. But I mean, people are so, what's the word for it? They have been for the last 2 years. I remember during the 2 years of the pandemic, for example, all our constitutional rights were taken away, just taken away at the sweep of a pen. One minister right away taking a pen, and nobody reacted because of the consequences of if you did. You know, if you stood up and said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not following this. I don't care. I want to know more before I take a jab or whatever. But no, you were shut off. You were ostracized. You were denied entry to certain places. You couldn't go into a restaurant. You couldn't go in for a pint in certain places because of your medical condition, your refusal to take an experimental jab. That's the workings of a dictatorship, not a democracy. But you know, you're right. You either have the right to express your opinions and your freedoms, or you do not.
But
one or the other.
The example you use there is the people that question what's going on in the country at the moment, are tried to push back, or frequently mislabeled as something like that, whether it's far right or, you know, the stream of labels that people apply. Have you come across that yourself as you've been kind of out in the streets?
Yeah. If you go back a bit in history, right? We go back to 1900, and let's face it, that was a totalitarian government, you could say, at the time, and there was a small minority of people who rebelled against that. They stood up, became politically active, got out, started doing things, started getting things done to try and change that. They were ostracized. They were spat upon by their own people even. They were called all kinds of names. They were branded all kinds of troublemakers. They were breaking the laws of the time. And they were called nationalists. People like Maud Gonne, Markovich, Pierce, Boland, loads of those names. Yeah, they all broke the law. And they were all nationalists, fanatics, wanted a free country, wanted things changed drastically. And they were all branded with all kinds of names. Nowadays we're hanging their portraits in prominent places, and we have statues on the streets to all of these extreme right-wing nationalists. And, you know, that happened a little over 100 years ago. So now look at it today now. We have people out on the streets, active, wanting drastic change, standing up against the regime, against all that's wrong, and they're being criminalized. They're being dragged into court, harried, harassed, being charged for being outside their 5K, being too far outside their own door, and they're being called all kinds of names. They're being called nationalists, and it's almost a dirty word at this stage. Oh, you're a nationalist. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe in 100 years' time, we might have statues to them, will we? When the climate changes, and when we've changed the totalitarian regime that we are living under.
If we can. I get a sense that the demographics of the country are changing a lot faster today than they were 100 years ago.
Yes, that's the difference. It's changing. Yeah, people do want. I go back to that. People do want change. There's no doubt about it. People want change. I mean, you don't have to be an Einstein to figure that out. You're talking with your neighbors, your friends, you go anywhere you like. People are tired of this. They're tired of it. and they want change. They want change for the better. They want more control of their destiny. They want more say in their society around them and how it's run and how it's worked. They want that. It's just that they don't really know. They know they want change, but they just don't know how to do it or how to go about it. And that's why I say we have to start right down at the bottom and work up. We have to get together. It's great that we can use technology as it is today, but we have to get together locally in our own local communities, eye to eye, face to face, and make decisions of what we're going to do to change it, and then do it. That's what we have to do. And I firmly believe people are realizing that more and more, that there won't be any change until they actually do that. I firmly believe that.
Yeah,
it's coming.
That's good. That's good. And it's great to. I've a sense of optimism myself. There's a lot of people doing good things around the country as well. So I think it's just a matter of kind of getting people activated and motivated to stand up and do it.
Yes.
So, listen, Paddy, we might wrap it up there. We might wrap it up here, Paddy.
Yeah.